Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken?
Hey, Kiernan.
Hello, Ryan. How are you today?
I am great. I'm sitting here, and it's very sunny in Bogota today.
Okay, so you're getting ahead of the Judy alert. You're taking us right into where you are.
I'm in Bogota, and last night I went to see Joker 2.
The Joker Dose, I assume.
Yeah.
Do they call him Hooker?
No, it's with it. It's like Guscar.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's bad. It's a bad movie.
This is Lady Gaga's in this. Is that
Lady
correct?
Gaga? It's a musical, so it's bad on like
bad. Oh well, our people, our Out of Office people will hate it, obviously. But you didn't like it, and it was a musical.
Well, it's not like a good musical. I just don't like every musical, and it's not like a full musical. It's like it kind of like pretends it wants to be, and then it doesn't go there. And it is. I have to tell you, it's a weird movie. I didn't hate it. I was like, this is really weird. And then like around us are all like the, teenage boys who love the Joker 1. And they're
what kind of theater are you going to?
And then this is like the most, I've never seen so many disappointed teenage boys since the third hour of, oh God, what's the bomb movie called? The nuclear bomb movie. I'm not. I just don't know. Yeah, you've gotten me out of my debt. Who's the guy who invented the nuclear bomb?
Oh, the nuclear bomb. Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying Bond, like James Bond. And I'm like, do teenage boys love James Bond?
I don't know anything about James Bond. I mean, no, but it's a weird movie. So I'm not recommending it. But if you really want to have a weird experience in the theater, it's up there.
And was it dubbed in Spanish?
No, I live in the fancy neighborhood, so all the like it shows all the art house movies, and the movie's not dubbed. That would be a nightmare to see a.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Do they have like a singer singing in Spanish? And because Gaga's in it, assuming it features Bad Romance, Poker Face, all the hits.
No, it's all pretty old, like old songs, like 50s, 60s.
Oh, but it is like a jukebox.
It's 100% a jukebox musical. Yes.
Oh, that is so. You know what they should have done? They should have had "Shallows" from A Star Is Born, guaranteed hit.
That would have been really funny.
I love that song.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been any weirder than what was happening. So,
Ryan, we've got so much housekeeping to do. It's a good thing that you got Judy alert out of the way. Hi, Judy. Ryan, safe. But Ryan, we've got a great and fascinating guest on today. This was one of your ideas based on the sort of confessions of a flight attendant, which proved to be a pretty popular episode a few weeks back. You went out and found what I would describe as a recovering travel agent.
Yeah, he's a former travel agent for a big travel.
Probably a formal one as well. I mean, you got to be, have a good customer service.
In the UK, and it's one of the biggest travel agencies. And, I wanted to get him to sort of give us some of the secrets of what it's like to be a travel agent. What are you really getting out of working with a travel agent? And I think it's a fun interview, and he's got a great accent. So you don't have to hear Kiernan's Boston accent.
I don't. That's so ridiculous. I don't have a Boston.
Oh my,
accent.
Yeah, you were literally Ben Affleck in Gone Girl. I mean, it's ridiculous.
As far as affectations go, everyone should now know. I've been holding on to this fact, but it's time to let it be known. When Ryan laughs when you're texting with him, he now writes ja 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 because he lives in a Spanish-speaking country, and somehow now LOL and ha 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 is no longer his language.
I like ja ja. I think it's better.
I like ja ja too, and then you get angry when I do it.
Yeah, well, that's appropriation for us Colombians.
Oh man.
Let's just jump real quick to these two great reviews that we've got. A shout out to Kay Gordon, who says we have consistently great content, and they booked a Mammoth Cave trip just based on our episode. So we are like,
God. That
selling,
is heartwarming.
Yeah, we're selling national park tickets. That's the Lord's work. And then a 5-star review from Jen on the traveling music episode. Really liked it, thought it was a lot of fun, and also is planning a trip to Boston and plans to pick up some book called Secret Boston.
That's right. My book. We don't mean to plug it every single episode, but Ryan, weirdly, you're the one who always brings it up.
Well, I don't have a book.
I was all. So. We all know that. And Jen also which praised the song "North to Alaska," which we've featured on a few recent episodes. One of my favorite. And I'm still I'm heading to Alaska in June, so it's on constant repeat in the house right now. And Ryan, I know there was something with the book that happened this week that you weirdly gave me a compliment about, which I was very surprised at, which was I led a secret Boston tour in Cambridge, in Harvard Square, where I took folks to a bunch of small, historic, interesting, out of the way, obscure sites. And wait,
I should say though that this wasn't just you dragging your wife and 2 kids on a tour. There was like 40 people there.
No, my wife and kids suffer through kind of a constant Boston tour. That's their life. I mean, somebody did write on my Boston Globe article, "You must be really fun at dinner parties." Thought that person really gets it because I'm insufferable, of course. But we did a tour in. We even got the Harvard Art Museum to open up and bring us and make a docent available on a special floor upstairs to see something called the Forbes Pigment Collection, which is a fascinating site. And there was enough interest and follow up from people who weren't able to get tickets before it sold out that we're going to do a couple more in the coming probably in the next 6 weeks. We're going to do 2 or 3 more.
Well, hopefully we can record an episode and you can give folks heads up when you're going to be doing a tour in advance, because there were some out of office fans at the tour.
Yeah. Well, I always put it up on the Instagram, so I will be sure to preemptively put it up on the Out of Office Instagram, which is at OOO podcast, like at OO podcast. So if you want to book, if you're near Boston, I think we're going to do a Sunday tour and then a couple evening tours.
Very cool. On my bucket list is to host a tour. Maybe I should do like a.
Surprised you never have.
I could do a gringo tour of Bogota or Mexico City.
That's a pretty good hook. That's pretty good. You should do that.
Kiernan, have you decided when you're going to vote for Trump? Are you going to do it early or are you going to do it day of?
All right. Well, Ryan, what you're referencing is that on previous episode, we're famously a big tent podcast. We invite all political stripes to listen because here we talk about travel, which, Rick Steves would argue is a political act. And certainly you and I have our own leanings. We used to get torn apart online that we were a little too Democrat, a little too left, a little too progressive.
Which is hilarious for anyone who knows us.
Well, because we proudly are Romney Democrats.
Romney Dems, yeah.
And, we've been weighing all the different inputs here, reading the articles, reading the policy papers. And I'm proud to say that on this episode, we are going to issue our formal presidential endorsement, which I think is going to come as a big surprise.
Yeah, we are going to be voting for Kamala Harris in November, and we want her to be the next president of the United States.
Absolutely. And Tim Walz as the VP. I love that. This is coming right on the heels of the recent VP debate, which was quite a performance on both sides. I loved when JD Vance said to the moderators, "We agreed you wouldn't fact check." Good look. Really good.
I'm going to start saying that on the pod when you correct me.
That's funny. We should just get a sound clip of it.
Yes. Finally. But I think, Kamala is, look, I travel a lot around the world, and from that perspective, the world looks to the U.S. for leadership, and I think Kamala is the person to deliver that leadership. And I think domestically, common sense approach to the economy and having serious people in office. We just settled the longshoreman strike in record time because our friend, not yet friend of the pod, but hopefully one day friend of the pod, Pete Buttigieg, negotiated a quick resolution to that. So I think having adults in office and serious people, it matters.
And while the major day-to-day kitchen table issues, we feel that she's right on. I'll also say that while Biden was really pushing the messaging of saving democracy, and that can be very heady and feel out of touch. Some of these new details that are coming out about what transpired on January 6th, very, very scary stuff, very irresponsible, and it just feels to me like a very clear threat. So it's an easy choice for us. And Ryan, I know you've been very involved in some organizing with Founders for Kamala. And so we want to use our little platform here to encourage folks to vote for the Democratic ticket this year.
Definitely. And with that, we'll end the political segment.
Well, not totally, because we've got an active quest. And, certainly the endorsement, hopefully, will sweeten the deal a bit. We've got a quest for Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg to come on the show. And I wanted to give you a quick update, Ryan. I've been hearing back and forth from his people. I've been in touch with his digital folks who are then going and pitching us to his media folks. Now, granted, I believe that the longshoreman strike that you were talking about probably slowed where we were on the to-do list. But
I would hope so, frankly.
I mean, it was. Personally, I think we should have been at the table, but it's a type of transportation, actually. I still have hopes that we've got a few weeks left here to get Mayor Pete here on the podcast, where we've got a lot of listeners in a lot of swing states. So I'm sticking to it. I'm in touch with the campaign, and I'm very hopeful. I'm in touch with the Department of Transportation, and I'm very hopeful that we can get Secretary Mayor Pete, who, by the way, is in Boston, I believe this next week.
Yeah, and if anyone knows Mayor Pete, we're willing to drop an emergency pod. We've never done that before, but we're willing to get it out the door ASAP because we think there's Mayor Pete and the Biden administration have done a lot to make it better for travelers. They're working to cut those nonsense extra ticket, prices that you don't know about when you buy your ticket, and just lots of things that I think make it easier for folks who travel a lot. And I think that's a lot of our audience.
I mean, we've never dove into traveling internationally while Donald Trump was president, but I'm sure you've had the same, Ryan, many conversations once you're discovered as an American ensue. And there is no question that it is more comfortable and more respectable to be traveling as an American with a Democrat in office in the current state of things.
Absolutely. It's funny. I posted on the expats in Bogota Facebook group if any bar was showing the VP debate, and someone's like, "I'd have you over to watch it, but only if you're not supporting JD Vance."
Did you go?
No, I didn't. I had too many.
You were still undecided at that time.
I wasn't decided if I wanted to watch.
That was the political chat. Listen, we know there are some listeners who are probably not going to love that we're using our platform to say this. We still invite you to stick with the show. We want to always be able to have dialogue together. But in this case, we just want to do everything we can to help this go the right way.
Exactly.
So with that, let's take it out of the political realm, Ryan. I cannot wait to learn the secrets of a modern day travel agent. What do they do? What tools do they use? What advantages do they have? If they have advantages, I think it's time to take off.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
Well, welcome, Rory, to Out of Office, a travel podcast. We are super happy to have you on.
Yeah, nice to be here.
So, Rory, tell me, how long did you work as a travel agent?
I worked as a travel agent for 10 to 11 months, just freshly after graduating.
Okay. And during that 10 or 11 months, how many different clients did you work with?
Oh, that's a very hard one to answer because we would just get calls every day, and some would pick up and turn into a sale and some would drop off. So I don't know, I'd probably estimate around 10 a week, like 10 clients. Like some would be like building a bigger itinerary for them. Some would just be like a flight to France or something.
So it's safe to say you probably helped, a couple hundred people book travel during your time as a travel agent.
Yeah, definitely around 400 upwards.
Cool. And is this was this like a big travel agency, or was it like a small mom and pop shop?
It's the biggest it's the best reviewed travel agency in the UK. It's been around since 1980, and the company is worth $500 million, one of the biggest private companies in the UK. So I'd say it's quite large. It gains us customers from the reviews they have online because of they've got an emphasis on customer service. But no, I wouldn't say it's the biggest travel agency.
Gotcha, but it's a big one. There are hundreds of people working.
It's one of the big dogs. It's one of the big dogs.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So, 1980. See, that sounds like a time when people would use a travel agency. So I'm curious, like, why do people use travel agencies today?
Yeah, that was like when they first started, they would use like teletext and things. So that, like, the calls were just constant. There was a lot of people in the office as well that had been there since like 1990, 2000. So they'd been in this like job role for 20 to 30 years. So yeah, back onto those people who've worked there for 30 years. Back in the 80s or 90s, they were calling for a flight, and the whole emphasis of a travel agency on our side is to sell. So these people are building trust with the clients. So you have retention clients coming to the travel agency just to call up, like they actually want to talk to the travel manager. They'll only deal with that specific travel manager because they've like helped them on so many itineraries in the past. That was like one of the big selling points with the travel agency as well. Like you build your own clients, you make your own commission, and you sort your own career through them. But I think a lot of it as well is like there's a lot of corporate clients, people in business who just want to make a call and sort out 21st class tickets to Vegas or something. A lot of old ladies just like wanting to make sure they're all safe and they're not going to be scammed off the internet. I'd say there's a good few reasons why. And I mean, of course, there's internet traffic as well that would like prompt them to call us. So like our travel agency was based only on call. You couldn't book anything on the website. You had to call us to make a booking.
So okay, this makes a little sense, right? So I totally get if I am like an executive assistant, I need to plan travel for 10 people on a team to go somewhere that a travel agent would be useful. And then I see if I'm like an older person who's just not as comfortable with booking travel online and I want to speak to like a real human when I'm booking my tickets. So would you say that those were sort of the bulk of the folks you were working with?
I'd say it was a lot of corporate, it was a lot of older people, but then I'd say 30% of the clients were just everyday people who were just like calling, like thinking they'd maybe get a good deal. They were shopping around. Of course, they would call us and we would essentially capture them because you had to be like chatty on the phone, use sales language. They would just feel safer just paying an extra £50 and booking their like itinerary with us.
So they knew they were paying more. Like they weren't getting access to, like, do travel agents have access to, deals that are not easily found online?
We didn't know. We would have a list. Well, we had an intranet. Like our system would just like pull all the flights, and then we'd have the prices like as they are online. Sometimes we would have like an inclusive tour fare, which is just some travel agency lingo, but they would kind of just take between 3 and 5% off, just so we could add a bit of commission onto the flight as well. But that was like only with some main airlines that we had a contract with, and they were like rotating all the time.
And so I'm calling you, and are you gonna, I want to go to Peru from London. Are you going to be able to book me my flight, my car pickup at the airport, my hotel, my tours to all the various things in Peru, and then my car back to the airport, back to London, like everything? Is that something like that would come in a package?
Yeah, that's what we specialized in. So we would just arrange everything for you, walk you through it, and then we'd like sell it as a package deal. But there was no really deal in it. It would be a commission on top, and you wouldn't be able to see the breakdown of prices.
And so how much are you marking this stuff up? So say a flight is, $1,000 from London to Lima, Peru. What are you actually charging folks at the end?
It varies. I mean, you kind of need to just pick up on what the client has given you in terms of like body language through the phone. But it could be like £50 on a £200 flight to France, or I mean, some of them were like £2,000 commission, and they were paying like £6,000, £7,000 for a whole package. That's something I wasn't really proud of, but of course you would be getting in trouble at work if you weren't selling and making that commission on an itinerary. So it was a lot of like smiling through your teeth, telling them that that's the best fare they're possibly going to get, things like that, to like emphasize that this is the best place that they can buy their like holiday package.
And when you talk about this as like a sales job, and I never thought about being a travel agent as a sales job. I thought of it as more of a passive job, like someone calls and says like, I want to go to Rome, and you work with them to figure out what works best. But are you constantly trying to sort of upsell them on different packages, different things, a better hotel? Is that sort of part of your job?
Yeah, that's what our managers and regional directors would keep like pushing on us. It was actually with sales in that environment, it's very cutthroat. And if you're not hitting the sales, you lose your job. And I saw two people who were similar to my age that also got sacked because they weren't selling enough, because they couldn't lie on the phone, and they couldn't, just persuade people to purchase their like holiday packages through us.
Right. No, that makes sense. So, were you ever asked to sort of push certain itineraries or certain attractions or certain kinds of trips to get better commission? Like, did you have incentives to persuade people to do other things?
Yeah, I mean, we had loads of deals with different airlines and things. So, like JetBlue, things like that. If you book like 5 JetBlue flights in a week, they would give you a free JetBlue flight, like a sort of incentive to like upsell them. But no, we didn't get like extra, like we didn't have specific accommodation and things that were like cut down for us to make more money. It was just, we need to add money on top of this essentially to make a profit.
Gotcha. But there were some different things you could sell where you would make a slightly better commission, or like you just said, like if you sold 5 flights on a specific airline, you might get a free flight. So there were some things you were aware of like that.
Yeah, and of course there's like variation in the market as well. If there's 2 very similar hotels and one's £200 less, we would still try and sell the one that's less with like very nice lingo, and then just mark it up to the same price as the place that was £200 more.
Interesting.
It was very cutthroat. It was very cutthroat.
So it's safe to say, though, that you're not giving people necessarily the best advice to plan the perfect trip. You have a lot of other things you're trying to accomplish from a business perspective when you're working with a client.
Yeah, I mean, it's very self-interested when you're like calling a travel agent, but my company was very different to a lot of other travel agencies. So like they weren't allowed to put their own commission on. And I think that's why my company was one of the biggest private companies in the UK. And it's because they somehow found a loophole that they could add their own commission on top of things. I think if you're like booking for a group and, like you're a very busy person, a travel agent is perfect. Like we used to have people that would call up all the time, make us build the full itinerary for them, their perfect dream holiday, because everyone at the travel agency has experience. They've traveled everywhere. They know what's good, what the nice attractions are, what the best flight is, sort of things like that. So people would just call up, shop around, get the perfect itinerary, and then maybe just book it online or go to a cheaper travel agency.
But when you say like, what the best things to do in a town are you mostly pointing people to like the most famous attractions?
I mean, for me, I was a fresh graduate and I hadn't done a lot of traveling, but for my peers in the office, they'd already been there. They knew like some places that weren't the most popular, like they knew like the local places. And that's just something you kind of pick up when you're working there as well. So I could sell Thailand on the back of my hand, even though I'd never been. And I was able to make it sound like I'd been because I knew like some places that were, like not booming with tourists and things.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So folks are calling, they're booking these packages. What kind of tools are you using on your side to actually book things?
So travel agencies have their own sort of systems that pulls through things like flights, accommodation. So I think we just paid some tech whiz like a lot of money just to make our own intranet, to pull these through. But yeah, I'm not too sure on like other travel agencies, but people who would come in and talk to us and try and like sell us things would tell us like we had the best like intranet in the business.
Were you ever using any just consumer tools to book things like Expedia or hotels.com or something like that?
Expedia has an agency portal. So we had like ones like that. Anything you see online, they always have an agency portal as well. So you can add it to your own intranet and like add the commission and things like that to it.
Well, how about places like Machu Picchu where the tickets are super limited? Do you all have access to at least be able to get people into places like that or get them into restaurants that might be hard to get into?
Restaurants were definitely like reserved for more experienced travel agents that, you know, like have maybe been there a few times and like knew the person that worked at the restaurant. So that was like extra brownie points for the travel agent that could do that, but it's not something we would necessarily advertise. But like tours and things, like we always had access to tours. Have you had like G Adventures and places like that?
No, I'm not. I don't go on these kind of tours. I bought my ticket to Machu Picchu myself and then hired a tour guide.
G Adventures is a really good like travel touring company. So he made that like out of his own basement as well. Now it's like the biggest tourist tour guide company like in the world. But yeah, just like things like that. Like we just had loads of client portals, agent portals to get in and like, you know, just add it to itinerary and upsell it.
Gotcha. So one of the things I imagine that is useful about a travel agent is if there are issues with your travel, if the flight gets canceled, if the hotel is closed down for an emergency or something, like, was there a way that folks could call and quickly, you know, get updates and fixes to their trip?
Yeah, I think this is like the lighter side of travel agencies, whereas when you are paying like a premium for the service, for everything to be put together for you. But then, of course, if a flight goes down, it's us contacting the airline. The airline kind of has our name and knows not to like mess us around because we're booking like a certain percentage of flights for them a year. So we get through relatively fast compared to like a customer on customer support. So it would be, yeah, so our role as well would be like we make the sale, then we look after the clients all the way until the end. So if something went wrong, we're just like giving them calls, information that is obviously hell on earth to do when you're in a foreign country, you know, with no signal, things like that.
Do you have an example of a time that you helped save a client's vacation?
I know I have done it in the past. It was more just like a monotonous like thing that I would do like to help someone. But yeah, like I know like a British Airways flight was cancelled once, and I had to like call and make sure that they could get on the next one. Wasn't that interesting. I know like some of my colleagues have had some more interesting ones when they're getting roared down the phone to like get them a refund and things.
Gotcha. What about things like you know, telling people they need to get visas or reminding them about just things they need to do? You need to get a shot. You know, like before I went to the Pacific Coast in Colombia, you know, I had to get my yellow fever shot. Are you giving people information like visa, medical stuff so they can?
Yeah, of course. Especially like the older people that would call up and, you know, they wasn't really sure how to fill out an ESTA form and things. So, I mean, if people were lovely on the phone to me, like I had all day for them. So I would just like make sure I was walking them through it and things. And that actually got me like a lot of retention clients as well, because they just wanted to stay with me since I was helpful for them. But yeah, it's just like helping them with like ESTA forms, injections. We kind of just got a notification as well when we added a flight to the itinerary, like, oh, by the way, like this place is not recommended by the government to visit at the minute, or this place needs jabs. Make sure you remind them about an ESTA form and things. So they were just sort of prompts, and you would make sure with the clients that they were aware of everything.
Gotcha. I mean, that seems like an added value. I mean, I'm somebody who flew to Brazil without a visa once and then got thrown out of the country. So I know that, you know, it would have been useful if it had popped up and said to me like, hey, Ryan, you got to go get a visa.
Were you caught at customs?
Yeah, I was caught at customs and turned away. It was very dramatic.
Yeah, geez.
Yeah. Well, why don't you share, I'd like to hear just a sort of a couple memorable trips that you booked for folks that you think were sort of a little bit beyond the ordinary.
Well, I used to like flush when a celebrity would come through on the phone.
Ooh.
So, like Corliss from the House of Dragon.
No, but I'm sure some of our listeners might.
A gorgeous night on House of Dragon. And I booked him a flight to Pisa. And he just kept calling. I think he actually liked me because I was kind of like buttering him up because I wanted him to keep calling me. But I kind of had to remind myself that I was at work.
You can't date
Andrew
the clients,
Scott as well.
Rory.
Yeah, you can't actually date the clients, but you can try.
So is it actually Andrew Scott calling, or is it Andrew Scott's like assistant?
No, it was actually Andrew Scott, sexy priest from Fleabag.
Oh yes, I know Andrew Scott.
Have you watched Fleabag?
I love Fleabag, and he was also great on the Ripley series. He's quite an actor.
Yeah.
So
he was great.
So he would call up for a trip and be like, "Hey, I need to go to XYZ."
Yeah, so he was going to Paris, and then another one he was going to LA for like a movie premiere or something. And then there's a few other like smaller ones that were like going to an Apple TV premiere. I can't remember their names, but I also searched them up on Google and they looked very nice. But yeah, it's just like, just a few little celebrities called and a few bigger ones as well. Of course, they're like busy and they just want someone to do everything for them.
And you must deliver them like a nice package. Is it like a physical thing they get in the mail, or is it like an email, or both, where it just sort of gives them everything they need? Because I make that myself, right? Like I have a Google Doc for every trip.
Itinerary, yeah.
Yeah, like a serious itinerary. That's what you're giving them.
Yeah, essentially, and that would just come through an email as soon as they like paid on the phone. And then, of course, they could get that posted to them if they wanted. You would just like tick a box.
Cool. There
would also be like people from men from Leeds and things would just like call up and be like, one flight to Pattaya. Like they just obviously want like a raunchy weekend and things, and like we'd all like put the phone on mute and like have a giggle in the office because like we all knew like what they were doing and what they were booking it for, and just like sort of that vibe.
Yeah, if our audience doesn't know, I've always pronounced it Pattaya, but it's a beach town in Thailand known for decadent type tourism.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny. It's funny to think that somebody would be able to call and do that and not think they were being made fun of on the other end of the line.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, they might just think it's not that popular of a destination.
So, Rory, I know that you're sort of fresh out of school and probably haven't done a ton of traveling yet, but do you use a travel agent when you book travel?
I grew up with the internet, so I think I would definitely use the internet over a travel agent. But who knows, in like 20 years when I might be really busy and I just need someone to sort it out for me, or if I was like, I know if I like worked for a big agency and it was for 20 people for business clients, I would just call a travel agent because I know it's like they're the ones going to be looking after the flight. Like they sort of take priority over that flight since it's 20 people. It's worth more to them and they want a good review. So I feel like depending on the circumstances, I would use a travel agent, but not for like individual travel.
Well, I know I actually, I hadn't considered like the business aspect of it. And I think now that we're far enough past the pandemic where people are doing more business travel, that is like a real, like, gosh, like back when I worked at Blue State, we had this awful business travel portal that we had to use to book all of our work travel. And I swear that it was just designed to give us like the worst possible flights at the highest possible prices. So I could most definitely see, wanting to outsource that to somebody. And then you've got somebody who's accountable for the flights and someone you can call if there's a mistake or, so that I buy that. So business travel, I buy. Individual travel, I'm a little skeptical of. I find the whole planning of a trip to be where I'm learning a lot about the place that I'm going to go, and that without that context, it would just be a less interesting trip. Plus, I sort of see the planning of a trip as sort of like a game, like, can I get the flight to get me somewhere on time? And, can I find the perfect restaurant? Like, I just enjoy all that sort of like planning myself. And maybe that makes me like a weirdo. But I do travel a lot. So I think that I'm pretty good at booking things.
Travel agents are perfect for like some inspiration. If you like want an idea where's hot at the minute, hot as in popular, like what's a great destination to go to. Like they can just help you shop around. Really, you don't need to make the purchase. So they are great for that.
Yeah,
I just want someone that's like a little bit experienced.
Well, that seems like that would not be great for the travel agent, though. They're spending their time giving me advice, and then I'm going to go.
No, it's not great for the travel agent, but it's a very popular thing to do.
Well, that's a good tip. If you just want to call and have a convo with somebody and kind of get some ideas about your trip, and then save 30% by booking it yourself on Google Flights. You can do that. I hadn't considered that.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. I hope folks, folks should be conscious of other people's time. But no, that is a fun little travel hack. Well, Rory, thank you so much for coming on Out of Office podcast and giving us a little insight into how the travel agency world works in 2024, and appreciate your time.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And now it's time for the last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan, we're here in the last stop. This is the final segment of the show. It's the last segment of the show. It's why it's called the last stop. That's just a clever little piece that we got in there. And it's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's popularly known as the people segment. It's when we come together as a community to share. And of course, we want to thank Rory for sharing many of the secrets that we learned there in the interview. But this is a time where we share some inspiration. It could be anything. It could be an anecdote. Could be some new information. Could be a news story. Could be plans that we're making, or plans that we've pulled off, or plans we've abandoned. It can be anything, as long as it checks one box. It has to inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workday week. So, Ryan, I want to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
I do, Kiernan. There's a fun article linked in the show notes from Business Insider, and it's about a woman who flew all the way to Vietnam only to have her entry denied because she had made a mistake on her visa application. And it really struck me because folks might remember that I flew from Rome to Brazil and was turned away for not having a visa and was basically thrown out of Brazil. In this case, what the woman did was her passport had her middle name on it, but her visa did not have her middle name. And because of that small discrepancy, she was denied entry. Now, she was able to buy an emergency visa right there at the airport. So she actually did end up getting into Vietnam. And they told her it was going to be very expensive. It was $100. So I think to avoid being thrown out of a country, $100, pretty good deal. I would have easily paid more than $100 to stay in Brazil. But just a reminder that, little things like that matters when you're filling out your visa applications, when you're buying airline tickets, just really make sure that everything matches up with the identification you're going to use along with that ticket or visa.
Yeah, Ryan, I also heard of a recent issue where a New Zealander was denied. Let me just see if I get this right. He was denied his passport to go abroad from New Zealand because his legal name is Skywalker. But because
a relative of yours,
because, yeah, my son, my third child, we have Charlie, Penelope, and Skywalker. No, because it was a copyrighted name, they wouldn't issue the passport. Then it got in the news, and the state gave in. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to change your kid's name?
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have copyrighted names because there are only so many names to go around. What about all the Italian kids named Michael Corleone? Yeah, can they not fly?
Right.
That's so funny. Well, hey, did you manage to bring a last stop this week, Kiernan?
I did, Ryan. So this is a fun bit of news. As you know, a bit of an Anglophile. I've done a lot of episodes here on traveling through England, and there was it's not often that you get drastic changes going on in some of these great historic monuments in London, but just this past month, there was a major change at Westminster Abbey. Which is there's this section. Have you been to Westminster Abbey, Ryan?
Did they make it Catholic finally?
Oh, if only. I mean, I have been. I have been.
It's a beautiful abbey.
It's a beauty of the many abbeys we've visited. And there's this area called the Poets' Corner, which is where great poets and playwrights.
Is that where Shakespeare's body is?
Writers. Yeah. Well, his body. He does have a memorial there, but his body is in Stratford upon Avon.
As I should know, because we did an episode on this.
We sure did, yes, and you can go visit his grave there. But in this corner, the Poets' Corner, they have on the wall the names of the three great writers, sisters Charlotte, Emily, and Anne Bronte. And what's been fascinating is for the many years that memorial has been up there, the Bronte did not have the two dots above the E for each of the sisters' names.
Really?
Yes, and
they're not getting their visa. They're not getting into Vietnam.
I would have mistakenly called them umlauts, but I've learned that they are actually called diaeresis. Diaereses is the plural, I believe. Diaereses, which are punctuation dots that go up above the vowel to indicate the changing of that pronunciation. Because without these, apparently you could be mispronouncing them as Bront or Brunt, not Bronte, which we all know to be true. And so this wrong has been righted. You do wonder what process this has to go through, all the different checks, and then finally getting a sculptor or a drill in there, and then a painter to come in and actually paint them black. And the New York Times article has quite a nice photo of the work being done. But I just love this wrong being righted. And you also get a little bit of history about their father and how he changed their last name. It apparently used to be Brunty, and all this little literature history that never would have come to light. And finally, thank goodness, it's been righted. So who knows what will go on next there in the Poets' Corner. Not a place you expect too much change.
That reminds me of the classic British TV series where the woman's name is Mrs. Bucket, but she goes by Bouquet or something.
Bouquet.
Yeah, it's a very funny bit. I forget the name of the show, but one of those old BBC shows they show on PBS at like midnight. You have to wonder how they made the original mistake. Don't you think you would double check? It's not like you're making a graphic, wouldn't you make sure you got the names right before you carved them in stone?
Here's what I'll tell you. They went up during World War II. So I would say, they had bigger fish to fry at the time. So, the person who was probably in charge of putting the dots up above the E, was probably taking shelter from, I don't know, bombing by the Germans.
So you don't think Churchill was there to personally copy edit the Abbey's new installation?
No, he was down in the underground rooms that I famously still haven't visited, despite having spent, a year. I love
that I've done that and you haven't. It's awesome. The Churchill war rooms in London are awesome.
I think that I will be returning to London possibly this year, and Churchill war rooms are top of my list. And because of your hot tips, I know how to get in, even if it's sold out. That's a good tease to go back in the archives.
They love it. So, Kiernan, what are we talking about on the next episode?
Oh, well, first, perhaps it'll be Secretary Mayor Pete. As you say, we'll do a special episode if that comes up. But otherwise, we're here in spooky season, and the next episode will be approaching Halloween. So we're going to do, famously in the past, we've done episodes where we've talked about haunted houses and horror film sites. And this year, we want to dig into the art and craft of visiting graveyards. I know you and I both love digging into cemeteries. Ooh. We've been to quite a few together. Famously, we visited the KFC founder, Colonel Sanders' grave just within the last year.
We defaced it.
There's lots of unique things that you can learn about a city and history by visiting historic graveyards. So we're going to dig into how and why to see graveyards, and then some of our favorites.
That sounds like a good Spooktober episode. And until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
Spooktober. I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, your non-political travel podcast.
Vote for Kamala. Ryan, are you doing Halloween in Bogota?
I'll be here. Yeah, I have no idea. I've never been here before for Halloween, so we'll see what it's like.
Any costume ideas?
Oh, God, no. I'm old.
Expat. American expat.
Nomad.
Just get your Panama hat.